This is my pick a card reading for the full moon that is in Scorpio on May 7th. I'd just like to say a really quick thank you to everyone who has signed up to my Patreon already. You're amazing. Thank you so much for your continued support. I hope you enjoyed the video. All my links are in the description below, so go follow me on social media. Hi everyone, welcome to Vichkowski Tarot with me, Vichkowski. Today we are doing a pick a card reading for the full moon in Scorpio. Full moon in Scorpio is a really good time to sort of focus on the sort of toxic areas of your life and what exactly to release in terms of toxic energies, toxic people and toxic practices that you are sort of victim of or sort of just need to get out of your life. We have got here a clear quartz, an earring, a blue gem, a black stone and a bullet shell. So I'm just going to leave this there for about 5 seconds or so you can pause the video, you can meditate on which one you want to pick, and then you can skip to the timings that are in the description below. Okay, so if you're on this part of the video, we are on pile 1, which was with the clear quartz here. So I will just set out the cards like I had them at the beginning. And we are sort of answering 5 different questions with each card. So we have got this card representing what to pass on in your life. And we have got the Chariot. Where will rebirth happen in your life? We have got the Two of Cups. What stingers to be wary of? We have got the Nine of Wands reversed. Emotions bubbling under the surface. We have got the Ten of Cups reversed. And the outcome of this lunar cycle, we have got the Emperor. Okay, so we'll start with what needs to pass on in life, and we have got the Chariot. Now this card kind of implies to me that what needs to be released from your life at the moment is this sort of strive for balance and this sort of strive for perfection. We have the Chariot, which normally represents this sort of progression, this really fast progression. So I feel like what needs to be released is sort of having this perfection and having it straight away. I feel like you need to actually recognize and remember that perfection and balance and stability does take time a lot of the times in your life. It doesn't just happen straight away. And I feel like you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself to have this perfection straight away. So I feel like this card is very much saying that you need to give yourself time. Not everything happens overnight. Rome wasn't built in a day. It's giving off that kind of energy. So you need to just sort of release this idea that you can get everything done straight away and you can achieve complete balance straight away, and you need to give yourself some more time. What kind of rebirth will happen in your life? Now this card implies this sort of really strong connection, this really strong emotional connection with people. So I feel like rebirth is going to happen with your connections in your relationships, your friendships, your partnerships. You're going to have a lot of strong emotional ties, and I feel like it's going to, with this releasing of striving for perfection, I feel like it's going to open your heart and your mind up more to being more open and being more aware of the relationships and the friendships that you're making. So you're going to have a bigger opportunity to work on strengthening these ties and finding a real bond with people that you bring into your life. We then have stingers to be wary of, and we have pulled the Nine of Wands. Now this kind of implies to me that stingers to be wary of and things to be aware of this month are sort of projects and things to put your mind on that are only distracting you from your sort of goal. Obviously it's clear that your goal in mind is balance and stability and this true progression, but what's holding you back is things that are going to overwhelm you and projects that are going to overload your time and your energy and are going to distract you from ultimately getting to where you want to be. So obviously something to be wary of are just things that are going to take up your time, things that aren't actually going to be adding to you, and putting off projects that are strengthening you and that are bringing you to this goal that you have in mind and bringing you to where you want to be and who you want to be. So that's something to be aware of. Okay, so for emotions bubbling under the surface, we have got the 10 of Cups reversed. Now this implies to me that you're sort of currently riddled with almost this feeling of letting people down, it seems. I feel like this card ties in quite nicely with this 9 of Wands card here, that I feel you're very quick to take on projects for other people, which is where we saw the 9 of Wands, but it's not out of charity, it's not out of being generous, it's out of fear that you're going to let people down, and it's out of fear that you only have these strong connections with people because of what you do for them. So I feel like that's sort of where you are at the moment. That's sort of the fear that you have at the moment, and that's the emotion that you're sort of trying to repress. Which is where I feel the 2 of Cups comes in, where if you actually sort of give yourself time, you actually take a step back and you can actually realize the connection that you have goes beyond what you do for people. It goes beyond the actions that you take and is actually on a deeper level. You have a very strong connection with people. So I feel like once you actually sort of acknowledge this feeling and you actually release what you do for people and you actually sort of learn where you're being taken advantage of, and what you're doing for people isn't just why they're friends with you, you will actually be able to build a stronger connection and be able to release this sort of nervous energy. Finally, for what is the outcome for this lunar cycle, we have got the Emperor. Now I feel like this is a really strong card to pull, especially after having this card, the Chariot, at the beginning. I feel like the outcome of this lunar cycle, if you take in everything here as guidance, if you take it into account, you will have this true sort of outcome of being more understanding, having a lot more experience, a lot more wisdom, and being able to fully commit and take on this new journey and take on this new attitude that you have, and dealing with your own sort of dealing with your own projects to your own Chariot card. I feel like you're actually going to have a lot of stronger ties. You're actually going to feel a lot more dominant in your own sense of self. You're going to feel a lot more assertive and sure of yourself, and you're going to have a real confidence boost, and it's going to be a real transformation for you to achieve this balance that you really are desiring at the moment. So overall, I feel like the reading is sort of just letting you, sort of urging you to be more aware of where your time is being spent, urging you to take some time to yourself, urging you to remember how progress is still progress no matter how slow or how fast it's going. So maybe you just spend some time focusing on the people around you and why they respect you, the people around you and the emotional ties you're creating, and how it will further help you in becoming more of yourself. So overall, I feel like a toxic thing that you need to release are people who are using you for your time and not being there for you for who you are. So that was pile 1. I hope it resonated with you. Please let me know in the comments if it did. I've got all my links in the description below, so please go follow me on all my social medias, and I will see you next week. Okay, so if you made it to this part of the video, we are on pile 2. And this was the pile with the earring. So we've got 5 different cards representing sort of 5 different questions. So we have got what needs to pass on, the Ace of Swords, where will rebirth happen, the Fool, what stingers to be wary of, the 10 of Wands, emotions bubbling under the surface, we have the Devil, and the outcome of this lunar cycle, we have the Queen of Pentacles. So we start with the Ace of Swords here, representing what needs to pass on in your life, and I feel like this card is suggesting that you can be quite easily swayed and influenced by other people around you. You have quite an impressionable mindset, I feel this card sort of resonates with the idea that you struggle to find your own strength in your own opinion because you're too worried about maybe upsetting someone, or maybe causing an argument with someone, or someone having a dig at your own opinion. So you can be quite easily swayed by what others think and what others say. Now, I feel like this segues quite nicely onto the Fool card here for the idea of what rebirth is going to happen in your life. And I feel as though this card is saying that not only will you find strength in yourself, but you'll be able to differentiate between being guided by someone's opinion and being completely influenced by it, being completely, undeniably overruled by someone else's opinion. There's this idea that you're going to be able to trust your own intuition a lot more. There's this idea that you're going to be able to guide yourself a lot more and find guidance in, if we refer it back to the Ace of Swords, in the opinions of others and in the influences of others, but not be completely controlled by it. Which leads us on to the what stingers to be aware of. And we have got the 10 of Wands. Now, I feel like this card represents your external influences, and I feel like what to be wary of is, if you follow your own intuition and you follow your own impulses, you should be wary of those external forces that try to control you and try to control your connection and try to control the way that you think and the way that you are actually transforming yourself. We see here, obviously, in this card, the Fool, that they are holding an egg, if my camera would focus, which it won't. And then we see here in the 10 of Wands that the egg has been broken, and I feel like this could be due to pressure. I feel like this card is making you and urging you to be wary of when the pressure is being put on you to conform, and when the pressure is being put on you to have synchronicity and share a familiar opinion with someone. We then have the emotions bubbling under the surface, and we have got the Devil card reversed. Now, this card again has this real fiery, controlling energy around it, but I feel like this card resonates with you more personally rather than your external forces. And I feel like the emotions bubbling under the surface is your own perception of control and your own want to control those around you and your own desire to control the connections that you have with people and how they see things and how they perceive things, which is very interesting because I feel like if you take these into guidance and you take these cards into perspective and into a way of transforming yourself, then the outcome of this lunar cycle will be the Queen of Pentacles. There's definitely an outcome of having a lot more strength in what you value in this card here. There's a lot more strength in what you see as dear to you and what you see as worth, and also being able to share that with others and not have this need for control and not have this need for connection. Just being able to have faith in others, have strength in yourself, and have a trustworthy back and forth with these people that you associate with. So it feels as though for the Scorpio full moon, the toxic energy that you need to release is more so to do with the influence of control that others may have over you. Okay, so next up we had the blue stone, and we have got 5 different cards representing 5 different questions. So representing what needs to pass on in your life, we have got the Hierophant. Where will rebirth happen in your life? We have got the World. What stingers to be wary of? We have got the 2 of Swords reversed. Emotions bubbling under the surface, we've got the Knight of Cups reversed. And outcome of this lunar cycle, we have got Justice. Now, I feel like in particular, the Hierophant, the 2 of Swords and Justice really resonate really well with each other. So I feel the overall energy for this reading immediately is balance. You immediately, it just screams that you need to stop getting in between things and you need to start learning how to balance things. And this could be people and or hobbies or projects or yourself, just learning where to find balance and learning where not to put yourself in between things. So we have the Hierophant here representing what needs to pass on in your life, and I feel like this is sort of screaming that where you need to release, what needs to pass on in your life, is people coming to you to settle their disputes. I feel like there's a lot of energy in this card that you are the mediator a lot of the time. You often find yourself, or you often find people coming to you quite frequently to sort out their issues and to sort out their problems and to sort out their arguments. And there's a real warning in this card that being this mediator, being this guidance and being this leader can sometimes come back to stab you and can sometimes come back to bite you. So I feel like what you need to pass on is frequently finding yourself being this mediator and being this keeper of the peace and finder of the peace. What rebirth will happen in your life? Now we've got the World. Now this is a really strong card to pull here. So what rebirth will happen in your life? You'll have a greater sense of self. You'll have more time to yourself. You'll have a real confidence boost. If anything, you'll have reconnection with everything that you've got going around, but for yourself, not for anyone else. It's for yourself. This card is really strengthening your perception of yourself and really strengthening what you have for yourself. So there's a real strong card to pull for what rebirth will happen in your life. Now, for what things to be wary of, we've got the Two of Swords, which, as I said, resonates really well with this Hierophant card, with this idea that what you need to be wary of is getting in the middle of things, is getting in the middle of arguments, and is finding yourself in the middle of disputes where you don't need to be. You don't need to be in the middle of these arguments. You don't need to be in the middle of these issues and concerns that have no purpose for you, that don't provide you with anything, that don't get you anywhere besides, as I was saying, getting stabbed in the back potentially. What emotions are bubbling under the surface? We have got the Knight of Cups. Now I feel this resonates again with the World really nicely, with this idea that the emotions that are bubbling up is the fact that you're not giving time to yourself, the fact that you're not allowing yourself this peaceful energy to replenish yourself. You're not allowing this because you're so sought out to deal with conflict that you don't actually give yourself time to reflect on how it's affecting you, and you don't give it time to realize that it's not adding to your journey, it's not contributing anything, it's just stopping you in your tracks and draining you of all the time that you could have for yourself. So finally we have the outcome of this lunar cycle, and we have pulled Justice. And I feel this ties the whole reading together with this idea that the outcome of this lunar cycle, should you take all this into account and should you use this as guidance, is actually finding the stability and the balance that you need to look after yourself and look after what you have around you, and actually find the time to get to know the Alpha and Omega within you, get to know your own strengths and weaknesses, get to know yourself, get to balance your energies, and get to balance external energies that are coming your way in a healthy and in a positive way that is going to perhaps even influence others and even inspire others to do the same and to sort things out for themselves, rather than seeking out you personally to deal with the issues that perhaps don't even concern you. So overall, as I said at the beginning, I feel this reading is all about balance and finding balance and releasing the toxic energy that is coming to you in the form of dealing with other people's issues and dealing with the issues of others that serve you no purpose. Okay, so we are now on pile 4, and this was the pile with the little black stone here. And we have got 5 cards representing sort of 5 different questions. So we'll turn them all over one by one and we will go through them. So representing what needs to pass on in your life, we have got the Page of Swords. Where will rebirth happen in your life? We have got the Hanged Man reversed. What stingers to be wary of? We have got the 8 of Wands reversed. Emotions bubbling under the surface, we have got the Tower. And outcome of this lunar cycle, we have got the 7 of Wands. Now there's a lot of fire energy happening in this reading, so if you are a fire sign, please let me know in the comments, and perhaps this is why this reading in particular called to you. So starting with what needs to pass on in your life, we have got the Page of Swords reversed. Now in terms of this reading, I feel this card is implying that what needs to pass on is your inability to stick to a project, so to speak. I feel like this card is sort of resonating with this idea of wanting to start something new and wanting to move on to something completely unexpected, which is what you need to release. You need to learn how to finish things. You need to learn how to finish what you've started and not be so hesitant to continue going with a project that might not be going your way to begin with. You need to learn that things not going your way is not a reason to stop. It's a reason to learn. It's a way of learning what actually works for you and what actually will create projects to actually start going your way. So I feel like this card is definitely urging what you need to pass on in your life is this hesitation to continue with something that is not going the way that you first expected. Which ties in nicely with this Hanged Man reverse card, with this idea of what rebirth will happen, with this idea that you will actually find this strength in you and this confidence in you to not push projects to the side, to not leave things in the hanging and to leave things on a cliff. You will actually find the confidence within yourself to finish what you've started, to continue with things, even if you don't actually know the direction that they're going in, even if you don't actually see the end of the project or see the big picture. You will have the confidence within you already to get on with it and to finish what you've started and to finish what you're doing. What stingers to be wary of? The 8 of Wands reversed. Now this, I feel, really ties these two cards in together with this idea that, particularly with the Page of Swords, where you are so keen to sort of get on with the next thing, to sort of move on to the next thing, that you might feel like you're missing out and you might feel like you've made a mistake by sticking to one project, which is not the case at all, because as I said at the beginning, each thing that doesn't go your way is a learning curve. Each thing that happens is something to learn from. So something to be wary of are these feelings of doubt, essentially, are these feelings that what you're currently working on or what you're going to be working on isn't helping you, which it actually is, because it's teaching you something new, even if it's not going the way you expected. Emotions bubbling under the surface. We have got the Tower. Now, the Tower is normally it can be seen as quite a daunting card, but is actually a very positive card. Now, in particular with this reading, it feels that what it's implying is the emotions that you have bubbling under the surface is this unstable, uncertain, not being able to hold yourself up kind of feelings. Like you've got too much going on, you've got too much that you need to be doing, you've got a lot of chaos, you've got a lot of I need to be doing this, but I also need to be doing that. You don't have a clear focus and you don't have a clear destination. But this is where the Tower is actually really positive, because with all this tumbling down before you, it gives you a new perspective, it gives you something new to think about, to rebuild your walls with, to rebuild your foundations with. which ties it in really nicely with the Seven of Wands card that we have at the very end for the outcome of this lunar cycle, where you will actually learn to balance. You will actually learn to grow with what you put your mind to. You will actually have the strength behind you to sort of to find a knack to deal with multiple things at once, so to speak. You'll be able to tackle whatever sort of comes before you in a learning process in a way that will benefit you in your own growth. So overall, I feel like the toxic energy that is coming from this reading that needs to be released with the Scorpio moon is having doubt in yourself to finish a task that is not going the way that you hope it would. So that is something to think about for this Scorpio full moon. I hope you liked the reading. I've got all my links in the description below, so let me know if it resonated with you in a comment, and follow me on social media. So this is now pile number 5, and if you picked this pile, you picked the bullet shell because I ran out of crystals to use. So we've got 5 different cards representing 5 different questions. So I'll turn them all over and we will go through them. So we have got what needs to pass in your life. We have pulled strength. 1, where will rebirth happen in your life? We have got the 9 of Pentacles reversed. What stingers to be wary of? We have got the Empress reversed. Emotions bubbling under the surface. We have got the 7 of Cups. And the outcome of this lunar cycle, we have got the Hermit reversed. Okay, so we'll start with what needs to pass on in your life, and we have pulled the card Strength. Now this card implies to me that you have quite a dominant personality. You can be quite domineering over other people, so I feel that this card is urging you that what needs to pass on in your life is feeling so strong in yourself. Now while strength is a blessing to have and confidence is a blessing to have, it is also a curse, because if you're too confident in yourself, it could be arrogance. It could be this idea that you don't actually see your own wrongdoings because you're so confident in your own actions. So I feel like what needs to pass on in your life is confidence and strength to the point of arrogance, which which leads us on to where will rebirth happen in your life. And we have got the 9 of Pentacles reversed, which bounces off of this card with this idea that the rebirth will come from actually owning up to the consequences of what you say or what you do in your behavior or in your actions. Like, there's this idea of actually owning up to your own consequences and actually seeing your own consequences, not being so blinded by the confidence that you have, actually acknowledging where you might be wrong or where you could have done wrong or where you could have done something right. You're actually going to acknowledge the effect that you have around those around you. What stingers to be wary of? Then we have pulled the Empress reverse. Now again, I feel like this resonates with your own self personally. There's this idea that because you've been so strong and you've built up this confidence, you've almost created a shell for yourself. So something to be wary of is where you might not be so experienced in owning up to your consequences. You're not so well versed in actually acknowledging where you've done something wrong. So something to be wary of is your own perception of where your wrongdoings are, your own perception of what consequences need to be faced and what actually needs to be owned up to, which is something that you may struggle with. Emotions bubbling under the surface. We have pulled the 7 of Cups. It actually seems to me that the emotions that you have bubbling under the surface is this desire and this drive that you have to actually wanting to be empathetic and wanting to be more in sync with the emotions of those around you and wanting to have this sympathetic response to how others feel, but there's almost too much willpower in you to not be seen as vulnerable and to not be seen as, in a way, less confident than what you actually are. Perhaps you feel that you've got this image to uphold which is causing all of this. So it definitely feels like you have this desire and you have this want to be empathetic, and you do want to see the emotions and how you're making people feel from their point of view, but you struggle to connect with it. So overall, what this lunar cycle is going to bring me to, we have the Hermit reverse, which implies that while it may take a little bit of self-sacrifice and a little bit of shutting yourself away, it will give you an opportunity to learn about yourself and to actually learn about how you respond to others and how you respond to yourself. And with this self-sacrifice, you can actually look into where you are actually strong, and not just making it a front and not just making it a mask to seem stronger than you actually are because you're afraid of vulnerability. So I feel that this lunar cycle is going to be a real learning curve for you to reconnect with yourself and to learn more about yourself and actually find your own confidence through doing that. Because it almost feels like the toxic energy that needs to be released this Scorpio full moon is this overruling desire to be seen as perfect in front of others, and being afraid to show your more vulnerable side through wanting to be seen as perfect and through wanting to be seen as anything other, wanting to be seen as confident. So that was my reading for pile number 5. So if it resonates with you, please let me know in the comments, and I will see you next week for the next pick a card reading. If you make it to this part of the video, which I'm unsure how many actually will, I'd just like to say another massive thank you for everyone who signed up to my Patreon, everyone who took part in this video, and please let me know in the comments below if your reading resonated with you, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next week for next week's video.